the best of Money Matters.
Market View on Money FM 89.3.
That's right, you're listening to Money FM 89.3. Time now for Market View with me, Chua Tian Tian, where we take a quick look at how the Singapore stock market closed for the day, the biggest movers, sectors, and of course the companies to watch. But as always, a quick recap of how we started. Well, Singapore shares began the day trading in the red, as markets abroad finished mostly flat after US President Donald Trump's second inauguration. Now, in early trade, the Straits Times Index was down 0.3% at 3,796 points after some 23.1 million securities changed hands in the broader market. Now let's take you through the closing numbers. The STI closed down 0.33% at 3,795 points. In terms of value turnover, we are looking at 990 million Sing dollars. Gainers outnumbered losers though, 256 versus 212. Top advances for today, we've got here Jardine, Psycho and Carriage, GMH USD and Venture Core. And top decliners for today, we've got here UOB, OCBC and DBS. Now, in terms of companies to watch, we do have for you Sembcorp Industries. After its wholly owned subsidiary, as well as PLN Nusantara Renewables, yesterday launched a utility-scale integrated solar and energy storage project in Indonesia's new capital. Now, elsewhere, for more on global investors' reaction to US President Donald Trump's first day in office, to the impact of a quake in Taiwan on semiconductor factories located on the island, we've got more international headlines in focus. And joining me on the line today is Dan Chang, investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. Dan, welcome.
Hi, Tian Tian. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. And then let's start off by looking at global investor sentiment this time around. U.S. markets were closed yesterday for a holiday, but how did investors worldwide react to Trump's first day in the office? We'll talk about China later on, but generally mixed. How far are they awaiting more clarity on Trump's policies like the proposed External Revenue Service and the Department of Government Efficiency?
Well, for sure, he's a busy man on his first day in office yesterday. But in general, global investors seems to react with cautious optimism to the start of his presidency, as market weigh the potential impact of his administration policies. He did announce a few things on his first day. I think one of the most closely monitored one would be his delayed tariff on Mexico, Canada, and of course China, which is one of the contributing factors for the optimism today, I believe. Other than that, right, Trump have, in the name of national security, also declared a national emergency at the southern border, introducing some immigration laws, like ending birthright citizenship and things like that, okay? And on climate control, he has also withdrawn the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accord, which is the same move that he did in his first term, but the Biden administration reversed it. So now he's actually, reversing it again. And of course, you also mentioned the External Revenue Service and the Department of Government Efficiency. But it seems that the lack of clarity on these both policies have kept investors on a very cautious mode. But by and large, right, Trump is known to be a very pro-business, a very shrewd businessman by training. So investors are generally optimistic about the market, but just staying cautious in view of this lack of clarity on most of the policy. And I think perhaps he just needs some time to settle down.
Okay. Now, then let's go back to the Singapore stock market. As usual, markets here ending in the red. So how did the STI fare today? Any surprises when it comes down to the biggest movers and also the sectors that they lie in?
To be frank, I think, as I mentioned earlier, right, the market is cautiously optimistic. The Singapore market today is pretty mixed, with STI down about 12 points, 0.3% to 3,795 points. Banks have been in pullback mode recently, and today is no difference. All the three banks were down slightly, and most of the STI component and big cap were mostly trading near to the flat line. So most were either slightly up or slightly down. As for notable movers, right, for me personally, I think it would have to be the gold ETF. We check the gold price in general. I mean, due to the delayed tariff, right, the dollar index, the US dollar, they measured against USD against the 6 other peers, has fell as much as 1.3% yesterday. And with the USD sharing an inverse relationship with gold prices, right, it is not surprising to see these gold ETF price going up today.
Now, before we talk more about tariffs and the U.S., right, Dan, let's take a quick look at some counters to watch right here on the SGX. We do have Sembcorp Industries. It's wholly owned subsidiary and PLN Nusantara Renewables. Yesterday, they launched a utility-scale integrated solar and energy storage project in Indonesia's new capital. I understand this is Sembcorp's first venture into large-scale solar development in Indonesia. So when we look at the counters price movements today, how significant is the development, though?
Well, indeed, this launch in Indonesia, new capital, marks a significant milestone for Sembcorp as its venture into this large-scale kind of solar development in the region for the first time. Okay, and this development actually aligns with Sembcorp's strategic focus on renewable energies and support Indonesia's ambitious plan for sustainable growth in the new capital city. But as for share price movement, right, well, it initially opened at day high of $5.69 before slowly tickling down to close at the day low of $5.61, down about 0.9%. While I cannot exactly pinpoint the reason, it is good to note that from a charting point of view, right, it is presently hitting a resistance at around the $5.70 level. So it has previously tried to break this level 3 times in the past 4 months. But each time, right, we saw a pullback. Okay, and today it seems like the same thing happened. It hit a wall again. But going forward, right, because we are seeing lower lows as well. So hopefully with this news, we can see more demand for the stocks, and I really hope to see that the price to break out of these $5.70 resistance in the near future.
Okay. Now, if you're just tuning in, we're in conversation with Dan Chang, investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. Well, Dan, across the region, all eyes on China after U.S. President Donald Trump held off unveiling China-specific tariffs on his first day in office. Instead, he ordered his administration to address unfair trade practices globally and investigate whether Beijing had complied with a deal signed during his first term. So, on the whole, how are Asian investors reading into this, given how Trump, some market analysts would say how Trump actually changes his mind quite often, quite quickly?
Well, yes, very quickly. So, this is probably the biggest news, or rather the most closely monitored news of the day. Well, and it's very well received by investors. Okay, it marked the biggest case for optimism today, in fact. Okay, I think it's important to note that, while Donald Trump has set a date for tariff on Mexico and Canada, that is in February, he did not actually set a date on the tariff of China. Okay, so in my humble opinion, right, I think this tariff threat can be interpreted as a tactical move to keep the door open for future negotiation with Beijing while maintaining leverage over them, rather than, just a strong desire to make this tariff a permanent shift in the policy. And if you compare this turn of events to the tone that Trump has previously used when he says he's going to slap heavy tariff on China, this delay in tariff has provided some temporary relief to the market concerning about, escalating trade tensions and things like that. And, it looks like, Trump's weekend chat with President Xi might just be the secret sauce behind the delayed China tariff. And I don't know, maybe they are just cooking some diplomatic stew behind the scene. Yeah. Of course, that said, right, uncertainty still remain high given, as you mentioned earlier, Trump's history of unpredictable policy shift. So investors should still stay mindful of these personal threats and make informed decisions based on calculated risks.
Speaking of which, China was brought up when Trump discussed some of his outlook ahead with the media. He did not specify any tariffs for China, but He said that the U.S. could perhaps put tariffs on China if China does not approve a TikTok deal. So lots to watch. We'll talk more about TikTok at the end of the conversation. But very quickly, Dan, let's go on to China's embattled developer Country Garden. Now, Country Garden resumed trade today after a more than 9-month trading suspension. Shares jumped as much as 11% earlier today. How would you assess the movements and how far is this in line with your expectations?
Well, this is a tough one, Tian Tian.
Yeah.
So you see, in theory, right, 11% surge upon it return to trading after a lengthy suspension, 9 months to be exact, is a strong sign of investor optimism. Okay, so this sharp rebound actually suggests that the market is relieved to see the company back in action, and it's hopefully that, its delayed financial statement for 2023 and 2024 will shed some light on its recovery plans. However, that is theory lah. I mean, it can also be attributed, this 11% surge can also be attributed to speculative plays as well, as investors anticipate more clarities on the company's financial health and future prospects. While this surge is somewhat in line with the expectation of a strong bounce back, I think the real test will be in the details of, the upcoming financial disclosures. If the company show that it has weathered the storm, everything is, under the sunshine, the stock could see sustained momentum. However, there's also the risk of further volatility depending, on the result. So to me, I think it's a mix of relief and speculation.
Okay. Now, staying in Asia, Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company TSMC, it evacuated factories following a 6.4 magnitude earthquake near the city of Chiayi in Taiwan that injured at least 4 people and suspended work at factories across the island's south. We're seeing industry peers, including United Microelectronics Corporation, clearing up factories. How significant is the quake for the chip industry in terms of supply chain disruptions thus far?
Yeah, it's always, it's always sad to hear this kind of news, the act of God. I mean, it's beyond human control. Well, this kind of natural disasters struck Taiwan, right? It always raised immediate concern over potential disruption to the semiconductor supply chain, particularly given, Taiwan's critical role in the global chip production. Well, the good news is that according to a Reuters report that I read this afternoon, post-earth quake structural inspection have been completed, and it's confirmed that the structure are safe, and operations at TSMC are actually gradually resuming. Okay, water supply, power, and workplace safety system are also functioning normally, but detailed inspection, impact analysis are still ongoing lah. Okay, and depending on what pan out in these detailed inspections, right, I think the impact to the semiconductor supply chain should be limited. After all, it's not the first time that, they have experienced this. Just like last April, Taiwan also experienced a magnitude 7.4 earthquake. Yeah. Well, I mean, that time they bounced back very quickly, so I believe this time should be the same.
Okay. Now, Dan, let's end off with the U.S. We started with the U.S. Let's end with the U.S. by talking about TikTok. So Trump yesterday, or rather this morning, he signed that executive order to delay the enforcement of a ban of TikTok by 75 days, fewer than the 90 days we were previously expecting. We talked quite a bit about TikTok on the show, but looking at Trump's day one in office, the lineup of tech billionaires at his inauguration, how do you expect the U.S. market to open today? How far will the tech sector see a boost?
Well, I think it's not hard to see that social media and digital platform are one sector that will benefit from this Trump presidency. I mean, they are seated in prominent prime location, even ahead of some of Trump's cabinet staff, during the inauguration. So, Elon Musk has shown strong support for Trump throughout his campaign, like BFF. Mark Zuckerberg, uncharacteristic, has changed some of the regulation on Facebook, Instagram to align to Trump view. Okay, and even for TikTok, right, as you mentioned, right, the CEO, Shou Chu, has also thanked Trump in a TikTok post. All this seems to point to a strong ties that Trump has with all these social media company. And personally, I'm expecting this company to benefit from a Trump presidency. As for the general market, right, as mentioned earlier, I think investors still hold some optimism over Trump's second term in the office, okay, but with a very cautious approach. So until there are more clarity on his policy, I think it will remain as such. So barring any unforeseen circumstances, I'm expecting the U.S. market to at least open in the green today.
Okay, I see. We shall see how things pan out tonight. Thanks so much for the insights, Dan. That was Dan Chang, investment specialist and trading representative at PhillipCapital. Thank you so much for joining us on Money FM 89.3.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance.